Alright folks, we're back here with the sketch we completed last time. I do want to go ahead and take a note here and let you know how you're supposed to use these videos. You should be using these videos kind of where you stop and watch for a little bit and follow along. Remember, you can always pause them, back up 10-15 seconds and catch something. That is the most efficient way to use videos, especially walkthroughs. So don't forget to do that. I know I have not called that out before, but I'm noticing that as kids watch my videos, they're sort of watching all the way through, and then they're no better off than they were when they started. So remember, you have a pause button, you have a backup button. You should use those two things, okay? So anyway, we're here. I have not changed anything since the last time we talked. I'm going to go ahead and hit Finish Sketch. If you don't know where that's at, it's in two places. You've got the big, friendly green check mark up here, which I sometimes use, but you also have this one over here. I find that this one tends to be closer to where my mouse tip is at the end, so I use this one a lot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to choose my Extrude tool. If you don't know where the Extrude tool is by now, it is right here. It looks like a little box with an up arrow next to it because that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now I'm going to zoom in a bit so that I can easily click inside of all of the boxes I made. I do not want to click out here in the triangles. If I do click in the triangles, I can just click again and unselect them. That is a tip for you as you go through this. If you find you make a mistake, just try clicking it again. You can easily select and unselect. Okay. Once you've got it all done, you've got this little floating tooltip that's been following my mouse around. And it's got the number highlighted in there, and you can just go ahead and type 1/8, right? Remember, if you're kind of lost on this project at any point, you don't really know what the value is, it's probably going to be related to 1/8 of an inch, okay? It's not always going to be true, but it's a pretty good tip for you regardless. So here we are. I have one side of my bridge, right? Now, that's great, but I want a second side. So I'm going to not opine about symmetry here for once. I will save that for in person. What I am going to do is I'm going to come over here on Construct, and I'm going to find where it says Offset Plane. It's also the one that's in the Quick Tools up here. And I'm going to pick click a flat side of this bridge. I know I'm looking at this kind of cattywampus. I just want to get this flat, and you'll see the whole thing kind of flashes white. Now when it pops up, I get a little blue arrow here. I could drag this over to something I want, or I can type a number in here. I'm going to do that on this occasion. I'm going to type the number 1.125. That is an excellent number for you to remember as you go through this step yourself, and that's because you have to push a 2-inch cube down the middle of your bridge, so you might want to leave a little bit more than 2 inches of roadway. Okay. So now you can see that I am left with this half of my, or side of my bridge and this plane. That's exactly what I need to use my mirror tool. So I'm going to come in, snag my mirror tool. It defaults to objects, so I'm going to go ahead and click here, click the object. And then I have to select the mirror plane box. I will do that and click there. And now I have two sides of my bridge, right? Very, very easy to do that. I'm going to go ahead and turn that construction plane off. I find it distracting. I'm also going to turn that origin off for the same reason. And now I'm left with these two halves of my bridge. I keep saying half, I mean side. Now, I was somewhat clever when I did this design, and I'm going to show you how. My cleverness relates to this right here. It doesn't seem like much. But it has a corresponding one on this side over here, and it also has something related to it up top. These are going to make your life much, much easier, and you'll see why in a second. So let me go ahead and select this bottom one here on the left and click Create Sketch. You'll notice that Fusion snapped to the front of this thing. If I go to my corner rectangle tool, the default rectangle tool, and I hover over this vertex here, it'll snap to it. And I can pull my rectangle down here, and I'm going to stop a little early because I'm going to use my coincident tool up here. Coincident tool, if I select it and hover over a corner, you'll see this little dot pops up. That I can click, and I can make this dot sit on top of any other dot inside of this of the model, right? And if I hover over this corner here, there's another one, so I'm going to snap that, and you can see that this rectangle now goes exactly from this corner here to this corner here, and it's perfectly placed and dimensioned already. So less work is better. All right, I went ahead and hit Finish Sketch, and now what I can do is I can go back to my Extrude tool. I can select this box, and you'll see that the arrow pops up here. I actually want it to go to this other side, and I want it to be 1/8 of an inch, so I'm going to go ahead and select these numbers and everything in it and type -1/8. And what should happen, should have happened anyway, is it should go back here. There we go. Took a second to catch up. -1/8, it should create a beam that goes across the two of these guys. I do want to make sure that it selects new body before I hit OK. And the reason I want to do that is I'm going to use the rectangular pattern tool. So the pattern tool here, if I click on it and click this member, I now have to select an axis. It just means edge in this case, so if I go ahead and click that there, and I can grab this blue arrow and pull him down to the end. I could spend a lot of time fiddling with this guy and getting him perfect, but I actually know the numbers for this bridge, and it's going to be 9.875. I'll go ahead and tell you that on this bridge. On your bridge, you may have to do a little bit more of the fiddliness. Oh, do not want 56 of those. I want 6. That's what I get for having fat fingers. All right, so I've got that placed, and I can go ahead and hit OK. And you can see that now I have the bottom of my bridge has these like support beams that go across. That's great. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the top. Remember, I was a little bit clever with this one, so I'm going to click this little square right here and create a sketch. And I'm going to repeat the process again. So I'm going to find one of those corners to snap to. I'm going to place this down here. Then I'm going to break out my coincident tool, hover over this corner, and then I can finish the sketch. Everything is dimensioned. All right, so now I can go through and extrude. Hopefully this time I will not mess this operation up. Oh, look, I got it right the first time. I just typed -1/8 in there for -1/8 inch. I could also type 0.125 instead of 1/8, but it's just much faster for me. Again, make sure it says new body here. It may default to join. That's very common that it does that. If you find that you have trouble with your rectangular pattern tool, you can always go back into the previous operation down here on the bottom by right-clicking and saying Edit Feature. It will open it back up, and you could change this to new body. So I'm kind of illustrating that now. You can use your pattern tool with faces, but it is much, much harder. Okay. All right, so I've got the pattern tool open. I'm going to select the object, which is this one piece right here. I'm going to select the axes, which is right here. And now I can go ahead and type the value here. This one's going to be 4.9375. It's going to take that down to the end. And I'm going to use these little arrows here to turn that up to 4. And I can hit Enter on my keyboard, and now I have all of the pieces of my bridge right here, right? I do, however, need my road deck. So the road deck is also incredibly easy to make. I'm going to go ahead and click this front face here. I could also click this rectangle. Either one works. They're both exactly the same plane. I'm going to click Create Sketch, and now, you guessed it, I'm going to use my rectangular tool, and I'm going to place it out here. I'm going to use my coincident tool to take this vertex to this edge. It will also snap to edges. It's not just points. Okay, so do keep that in mind as well. Now I can break out my dimensioning tool. I can come here and I can go ahead and make this a 1/16 of an inch, actually. So the sheeting for your bridges should be 1/16 inch. A word of caution though, in your design, you want to design your bridge so that this area here can accommodate either 1/16 or 1/8 inch materials. The reason for that is the 1/16 inch material is kind of harder to get. So sometimes our supplier sends us 1/8 inch instead, and we have to make that work. So instead of redesigning your bridge, go ahead and design with some flexibility in mind. It's good for you. We can go ahead and finish that sketch. I can use my extrude tool, so I'm going to click in this, and I'm going to type, in this case, -10. Remember that negative modifier is really just about direction. If you're confused by that, it's because I wanted to do the opposite of what the arrow was showing. The arrow was pointing in this direction out here, and I wanted it to go this way, so I just typed negative. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop at this point. Our next video is going to be all about simulation, so see you there.